Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the last session of Adobe Symposium. We made it. It's awesome. Woo! Today, we're going to hear from three amazing partners/customers, starting with Scott King from Accordant, who's going to open up the story today to talk around how, as an agency, do we kind of think about delivering these great experiences at scale. And then we'll move to Tessa O'Rourke, who's going to talk about how at Westpac New Zealand they've actually started to operationalise this. And then Callum Todd will finalise the customers and talk about a great use case and the power of actually doing this at scale. And then finally, Adobe will finish it off with talking about the actual technology that has allowed all of that to happen. So I'd love to pass to Scott King, who will open it up.
Right, hello Experience All-Stars. Congratulations for making it to the end of day 2. You are true survivors. So Scott King, COO and co-founder of Accordant, working with a range of fantastic clients across Asia Pacific, and I'm very pleased to be presenting to you all today. So to kick off today's discussion, I'm going to start quite high level and conceptual, and then I'm going to pretty quickly try and get into some detail and into some of the weeds. So first of all, I'm going to talk about some of the different components and strategies of digital marketing. And conceptually, I always like to think about experience as the age-old iceberg analogy. So if we think about the tip of the iceberg, it's really the experience. The sailing boat, if you like, is the channel, the vessel. The intrepid sailors are our prospects and consumers. But of course, underpinning a great experience is a wealth of data and related components that we're going to talk about. So first and foremost, I think everybody in this room will be very familiar with this concept: data is power. Approximately 49.9% of the world's population, basically half of us now, are all connected via the internet. We're able to share memories, share experiences, and share messages through the power of data. Each one of these little white lines actually depicts the physical infrastructure of the internet, and it's obviously what's really powering data. But if we consider data is power, then what do we actually consider experience is? And especially that's a question I'd like to pose to yourselves, and like to sort of think about the first thing that pops into your head. What do you actually think experience is for you? What does it mean for you? We'll come back to that. So I want to talk about an experience I had recently. I was on my way to an important meeting, of course, and this happens. I get a big screw in my tyre. Dashboard flashes up, flat tyre, pull over emergency, etc. The old days, just pull your car over, you just pop the tyre off, put a new tyre on, and on your way. Not today. I remember reading the manual, and the first thing it said is, do not panic when you get a flat tyre. So I was relieved. Deep breath. Next thing it says is, press the SOS button. So I was thinking, okay, don't panic, but press the Save Our Souls button. It's a bit weird. So anyway, so I press the button. The phone or the car rings, and a voice answers, and it says, "Mr. King, we can see you've got a flat tyre. Would you like us to send a tow truck out to your location?" I thought, okay, it's new, it's different. I said, no, look, I think I'm pretty close to a service station. I can go and top the tyre up. I like to do things myself. And I said, okay, yep, no problem. We can see there's a service station not far from you. Would you like us to send the mapping location to your navigation? I said, yep, great, go ahead. And I went off on my way. And I was thinking about it, and this is, obviously, it's a terrible experience, horrible experience when you get a flat tyre. But the automotive industry or the car maker, the manufacturer, really they connected a lot of data to make that experience much better for me. They first of all, they connected the analytics of the car. They knew there was a flat tyre. They actually knew which tyre it was and knew how flat it was. They connected their CRM database. They knew it was me that was calling from my phone number. They identified me straight away. And they'd connected some sort of mapping system, like a Google Maps or something. They knew where the nearest station was and was able to send that to me. I thought that's an amazing example of what was a really bad experience becoming a pretty amazing experience. So now I'd like to get a little bit more tactical and talk about the 4 different aspects that really come together to drive an experience. And we've heard a lot about these high-level concepts today. I'm going to try and get a little deeper on some of the aspects that we don't often talk about within these 4 components. So first of all, of course, we have data, and the concept I'm going to talk about is multi-dimensional data in particular. We then have channel, and the ability to deliver experience across multiple channels and connected channels. We then have content, and the ability to deliver content at scale. And then finally, we have profile. And profile is really an aspect that's often overlooked, so I'll spend a bit of time getting a bit deep on that. It's really these 4 disparate skills that we as marketers need to be able to command and master in order to deliver an experience. So when we think about data, we have all of our historical data sets, such as anonymous data, known data, and we need to be able to master all those and bring those disparate data sets together. When we think about channel, we have our range of outbound, our owned, our paid channels, and then of course branching off that a range of different components. When it comes to content, we have things like dynamic creative, we have digital asset management, systems like smart tagging, rights management, DRM, etc. that we need to be able to master. And when it comes to profile, we need to be able to understand and manage somebody if they're anonymous or if they're known, as they transition from an unknown to a known customer and back. We need to be able to manage profiles when we have multiple people accessing one device, such as a home computer. We need to be able to manage profiles across multiple devices. We all have an average of 3.9 devices. So, profiles are really important, but often overlooked aspect. And of course, aiding us as marketers, we have technology. And obviously, Adobe's built a range of services and solutions around these different aspects to aid us. So let's start off by talking about data. And as I mentioned in particular, the concept I want to talk about, we all understand how important data is, multi-dimensional data. But I want to start off, first of all, talking about the fact that we as marketers today have so much data. We're the big kids in the candy shop. We almost have more data than we know what to do with. But the fundamental concept that we're always trying to leverage with data is, by combining online and offline, is the ability to create a digital fingerprint and really understand the context, the wants and the needs of our consumers and who it is at that particular touch point. And we do it through a digital fingerprint concept. And this is the more important concept, really. It's the multi-dimensional concept, as I speak about. And I'm going to talk about this as an example. So to deliver an experience, we need to understand at least 3 things and bring 3 different data points together. First of all, we need to understand the device. So first of all, device, secondary channel, and the final point is the state of the user journey. When it comes to device, as an example, we need to understand, is somebody on their computer, are they on an email, and are they in a conversion phase? Have they just bought something? Or is somebody on their smartphone and they're on the website, they're on a mobile site, and they're just doing some research? So by always understanding and listening to those 3 data points and delivering experience based on those 3 data points, we can start to deliver an all-star experience. But when we start to visualize that and map that out on a 2-dimensional plane, so we've got our devices and our channels and our touch points, we start to map out real journeys across that. We pretty quickly see the complexity that we as marketers are up against. And we can also see the different stages at which we actually need to be delivering an experience and strategizing an experience and have an ability to put something within each one of these different touch points. And obviously it's a big job, it's a big challenge, and but it's the linkage of data that gives us that insight. So the next thing I'd like to talk about is content. So understanding that we have this multi-dimensional capability, and that leads to us needing an exponential number of content and experience, then we need to master the ability to create dynamic and personalized experiences. And we do that through things like DCO. Actually, first of all, sorry. Again, another concept I'm sure we're all familiar with. If data is power, content is king. We all know that. And when it comes to extrapolating on that concept, again, so we have all of the different touch points, channels, devices, and then we have all of the different wants and needs and experiences we need to deliver across all of those different touch points. So in order to do this, we have to create obviously a lot of different content for a lot of different devices and screens. So we utilize strategies like responsive content and creating content that will scale to a multitude of different screens, resolutions, etc. We use things like dynamic creative so that we can upload a single image asset and use the templates and have the machine learning create the different variations for us. We utilize things like digital asset management capabilities so that we can apply smart tagging and metadata to that content, so we can start to quickly, easily search, index, and link that to a channel or a touch point. And again, these are a multitude of pretty complex things that come together to actually deliver content delivery experience. So moving on to the next concept, we have channel. So obviously, Adobe's real advantage is the fact that they have an ability to drive maximize the specifics required to drive a channel. So as we know, each one of these different channels is its own specialization. It can take years to master. Very difficult for one person to sort of master the whole realm of channels. So we end up with teams, and really, it's the ability to bring these channels together, which is actually the underlying power. So if we start to extrapolate out, obviously there's different solutions operating and maximizing really the business value that can be delivered for each one of these channels and actions. So if we look at paid media, for example, we need the ability to be able to optimize spend across SEM, paid SEO, social, etc. And that in itself is a deep specialization. But there's another concept with the Adobe solutions in particular that's very powerful. And so this is Aristotle, and somehow he foresaw Adobe's solution set when they bring them together. Very clever guy. Concept is the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So as soon as we start to connect two or more Adobe solutions, we end up with more capability through that integration than if we just stood up one of these solutions. And that compound effect becomes extremely powerful, again, for us as marketers. So the final thing I want to touch on is profile. And first of all, what does profile really mean? When we hit a website as anonymous first time, really we become a random number that's stored in a cookie and it's entered into a web analytics platform. When we hit a DSP, again, we're a random number that gets generated and gets put into a database. When we hit a connected TV, again, we're just a random number. All of these random numbers are disparate and they don't sync, they don't talk to each other. So even though I'm one person across all of these channels, from a technology perspective, I'm completely disparate. Obviously, actually, first of all, so we talk about a concept of a multitude of different vendors having different IDs as well. And we talk about this concept of a Frankenstack. So who has a Frankenstack in the room? Not many hands up. Obviously have excellent Adobe sales guys. And honestly, you do. Because if you do have a single vendor providing a capability across all of these channels, you do have the ability to start to stitch those IDs together. Of course, the challenge is if you don't, and we're trying to identify a multitude of different profiles across all these different touch points, obviously very difficult to do. And if we're not careful, things can get pretty weird, as we know, in this type of landscape. As we start to extrapolate that out, and we think about things like support and contracts, etc., it just becomes even worse, right? With the support models, the people we need to go to for assistance, etc., just extrapolates. When we have a single vendor solution, we have the ability to link all of these disparate IDs across all of these different channels together. We have the ability to manage ID across multiple devices, and also the ability to manage IDs across known, anonymous, unknown, etc. And of course, we can also link all of our support models, our contracts, etc., under perhaps a trusted partner, for example. I don't know, maybe Accordance. So to kick off, I posed a question, and what is experience? And hopefully you all had a nice quick thought and held on to that. For some of you, I guess if I went around the room and asked everybody what was that thought, I bet it would be very different. I bet you'd all, first thing pop in your head. Experience is a very personal thing. For some of us, experience, that thought might have been delight. For some of us, the first thought might have been surprise. But also, as we know, if we're not careful, if we're not using data and content to deliver an experience, it can be disappointment, which in a lot of aspects has an even more powerful outcome. But whether we consider experience to be surprise, delight, or disappointment, I think as marketers, we could all agree experience is critical, and the ability to deliver an all-star experience is critical. So with that, I'd like to hand back to Amy, and thank you very much for your time.
I love the data is power and content is king, because we don't want to end up with that guy with no ice cream on his ice cream cone. So thank you very much, Scott. I would love to bring Tessa up to the stage now.
Pretty exciting. Okay, good. We're out. We're going. All right. I'm going to talk about innovation without adoption being a little bit meaningless. So I want to sort of start with, if you could imagine a place just north of here, there's a pool, there's a bar, there's a pool bar, there's a masseuse, there's wine. There's also a gaming, a huge gaming session. There's Fortnite on 24/7. There's burger bars, there's beer, there's whiskey, or there's paleo vegan bliss balls if that's your thing. Who thinks that sounds like a pretty good place to spend a few hours or days, years, forever? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's call that place Nirvana. Oh, there we go. We're back. Yeah, let's call that place Nirvana. Can I get everyone to stand up? Look, it is last session. I'm here to please. So when I say go, I want you all to turn and face north. Go. Interesting. Okay, cool. Sit down. Curious. Look, we all know, as we just heard earlier, we live in a world of instant gratification. We live in a world where it's the economy of me. I am at the centre of my world. We're connected 24/7. We want everything now. We're really lazy. It better be a great experience. It's all about me, and now. Everybody in this room knows that experience is the currency of value, and that the customer sits squarely at the centre of everything now. And we're all here because we want to lead the way in that. So if I bring it back to Westpac, New Zealand, we are a big, old banking organisation that's been around for over 100 years. And we know we have to transform around the customer. That's absolutely a given. And really, our version of Nirvana is that customer-centred place, and that place where we deliver a great experience. But getting a big organisation to move is really difficult. So if we're to think about this room as Westpac, and we compare that little exercise, it kind of demonstrates the challenge. So some of you knew where North was. Some of you grabbed your phone. Some just spun around looking quite confused. Some looked at your neighbours. And some probably were thinking, I just settled in, I quite like it here. Why do we need to go anywhere? So we all agree that Nirvana sounds like an amazing place. And at Westpac, we have agreed that we absolutely want to go to a customer-led organisation. And we want to go there. And we want to go there now. And we want to go there fast. But we have to be safe. We have people's money. We can't break the law. And we still have to make a profit because, we are a bank. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through just a really quick run through of one part of our journey to get there, and that's about how we started and scaled our testing and personalisation program. So I'm going to give you a quick context of where we started and where we are today, what we learned along the way, aka what we got wrong, how we evolved, and let me tell you, the tech was actually the easy part because this is quite hard. So to put some context, in FY16 we had some great tech put in place by some very smart people, and we got 2 tests out. FY18, we're on track to deliver around 85 tests. We have an always-on program that will deliver about 40,000 form completes. We've got category affinity up and running. We integrated Audience Manager for on-site and off-site targeting. We've got a hub and spoke model working across the business. We've got templating of our tests in place. And we're about to start an AI POC. And we did all of that with just 2 or 3 people. So, you know, we're pretty proud of that. My team are here today. We're pretty proud of that. But I have to tell you, it was not all bliss balls and fortnight marathons to get there. So how did we get there? Well, we got a handful of smart people. We got some great tech, thanks Adobe, and we went agile because, you know, you've got to be move, test and learn, you know, obvious place to start, right? But the single biggest thing that we did was we assumed we've got top of the pop tech, we've got some great people, we all know we're aligned, we're all headed to Nirvana, let's go. We thought that would be easy. Now, we all know what they say about assumption. So, if I compare it to our shared goal here today of getting to Nirvana, we started much like we did with me shouting at you to go. And then I sent my poor team out, at that point there was less than 2 of them, to basically get all of you at once to help you to get out your phones, grab your compass, open the door, and head towards the door at a slow jog, doing a start jump in between at exactly the same time. Now, I know you're thinking, wow, what a great leader. At that point, we would say some of you already had your phone out and hit the road. Some of you actually still need to show where your compass is. Some of you we need to convince that it's better than using your old hard copy map book. Some of you, well, we actually need to upgrade you from a BlackBerry. And some of you are still sitting there muttering quietly about, well, why do we need to go anywhere and what is Fortnite? So the result of that approach was exhausting, frustrating, and not a great experience for anyone. And the irony of that is not lost on me. And well, look, it wasn't all doom and gloom. We did get a few people on the road, but it certainly wasn't the happy pilgrimage that we had intended. Now, hindsight is, of course, 2020, and saying this out loud sounds a little bit nuts, but have to remember we had the best of intentions. We had great enthusiasm and excitement. We had an agreed goal. We had top of the pop text. We had some good people. Like, surely this was going to be easy. Now, the good news is we learned quickly. And in true agile fashion, we pivoted hard and fast. So we got focused. We did less and we went deeper. So we picked 2 areas to focus on and we went on a mission to make friends with everybody that was involved in that, in all of those areas from top to bottom. And we're talking legal, risk, analytics, our security group, marketing. And we started with the people that were interested, had packed their bags and were ready to get on the bus. So if we're in this room, we would have found and connected with the people that kind of had some sense of where to go. We would have found the health and safety team, the catering person, the events manager, to make sure that actually we could meet all the rules and regulations, we could keep the lights on throughout that transition, and we could understand how many people could we actually fit out the door in one go. And the single biggest thing that we did was we let people play. Does anyone here like to be told what to do? No. So in the same fashion, there's no good telling people. You have to let people do, and you have to learn by doing. And that includes failing. And so we let people go. And we did things that anyone in this room would go, but why do we even need to test that? So we tested buttons versus hyperlinks. We turned off personalization at one stage because, no, really, this deal is amazing and everybody needs to see it. And then we let the data speak, which we saw a 40% drop of that particular personalization that we turned off. Because part of learning is about getting your hands dirty. It's about missing the target. It's about breaking things. And so we don't talk about failures, we talk about learning. And the other thing that we do now is we talk a lot. We share learnings, we have newsletters, we have learning sessions, we have shout-outs, we have Legends Awards, we have standing face-to-face meetings with key people, daily, weekly, fortnightly, monthly. Because here's the thing, we are still people doing business with people. We are not robots yet. Not yet. So are we at Westpac at Nirvana yet? No, but we are well on the way. We've got people all along the road. We've got some who are winding up to a jog, some who are already dive bombing into the pool for the first time, and some who need to take a break from that gaming room to get some sun. And you know what? There are some people who will still be sitting here when the lights go out and the cleaners are coming in, trying to figure out how does a compass even get inside a phone? And that's okay, because there are still people that believe the world is flat as well. So if I was to sum up what are some key learnings for us or for you guys, is if I was to have my time again, don't assume. Assume is the worst thing you can do. Just because you have agreement on Nirvana and you've got some tech, it doesn't mean that you'll get there. Learn by doing and failing and being okay with that. And communicate some more. Because whilst tech is an incredible enabler, this is still a people game. And that's in all of our emotional, irrational, imperfect greatness. Thank you.
Thank you, Tessa. It was great to hear how you got personalisation strategy off the ground at Westpac New Zealand. I'm glad everyone here is in marketing and not taxi drivers, because I'd be a little bit worried. For the record, north is that way. But next I'd like to bring Callum Todd to the stage to talk through some great case studies at Hester. So thank you.
Well, it's great to be here, and good afternoon, everyone. You all know the story of the little engine that could. It's one of hard work and optimism for a very worthy cause. For us, we live that story every day. It's about a small, dedicated team making a very real difference in the lives of our members and their financial future. So in the next 10 minutes, I'll share with you how we're creating content with a purpose in a truly lean, outcome-driven environment, some of what we've learned along the way. For those of you who are in the omni-channel session, stick with me. This presentation builds on that, but I'll have to cover the context first. So, who is Hester? We're one of Australia's largest industry super funds, and we're run only to benefit our members. You all know them. They're there for you when you're in hospital. They take care of your kids when you're at work. They'll take care of all of us when we're too old and frail to do it for ourselves, and they take care of Australia's most vulnerable. They spend a lifetime caring for others, and they're at poverty of retirement themselves. At poverty in retirement themselves. They have an average balance of around $50,000. We're all about getting our members to take the first steps towards a better future. Simple things like putting in an extra $10 or $20 a week can make a very real difference. Why is content so important? For experience to change behaviour, we need to deal with emotion, especially when it comes to money. To do that, we need to be personal and we need to be trusted. So at Hester, we're using content to show we know our members, to make it easy for them to cut through the clutter, to deliver effective experiences with the right message at the right time to forge those positive emotional bonds. We started our Adobe Journey, which you've all probably heard a lot about in the last couple of days, about 2.5 years ago when we shifted through a rebrand to Adobe Experience Manager. And at that time, we took the opportunity to look at the platform and ruthlessly restructure the website and ensure we delivered vastly simplified experiences. We're removing cognitive load as a barrier to members taking action. The first way we do that is aligning calls to action by what we know about the user. If they're a new anonymous user, we give them a clear call to action to join Hester. We're using digital body language as cues. If members navigate to a page that indicates they're trying to solve a complex problem, we shift that home page to serve a call to action to get them in touch with an advisor. We're also using signals from email campaigns and first-party data to create audiences based on life stage, propensity, and next best action. We're running structured tests to understand which fragments enhance the experience and which ones need improvement. Now let's take a look at how we're using first-party data to maximise engagement and action. So you can see from this chart the blue spikes. We've got 2 periods of the year where people actually think about their super. Can anyone guess when that might be? It's not Christmas. It typically relates to our statement run. And it's really about maximising those moments of engagement. We're dealing with that time when people will give their attention and saying, how do we get them to do something more with their super? So we're building on those current habits and trying to create new ones. We've gone from delivering fairly large paper-based packs to delivering personalised videos, all optimised for mobile. In between, we ran PDF statements, but you can imagine how, and sorry Adobe, I know you're working really hard on delivering awesome mobile optimised PDFs, but however we implemented them, they weren't great. So we went to video, and again, with the help of Adobe, we've delivered some pretty amazing experiences. I'll share that video with you. If anyone's capable of doing maths at this stage of the program, it is all dummy data, so the maths won't add up.
Hi, welcome to your annual super video. At the start of the year, your super looked like this. After your contributions and investment earnings, minus withdrawals, taxes and fees, your closing balance at 30 June this year looked like this. Let's see how your super performed in previous years. Want to add more? Simply choose an amount and contribute using BPay via your online bank. The details are below. Or speak to your employer about salary sacrificing from your before tax pay. That's it, your annual super summary. Want more detail? Go to the menu above. Thanks for watching.
So I could keep talking a lot about the sorts of things we do, but it's actually really all about our members, and I'll let this particular member's feedback do all the talking. For those of you who work in a low engagement category, you well know how rare it is to receive feedback like this. I'll pick out a couple of words there. Elated, simple, and huge thank you. Probably not ones that you walked into this session thinking about when you think of your super. Anytime people get passionate about superannuation, we'll take it. And that's how the little engine that could is delivering content with a purpose that's making a very real difference in the lives of our members. So that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Callum. Who knew that someone could get that excited about superannuation? I definitely didn't expect it before this. So on that, I actually want to close out with some great demos and content from our awesome 2 solution consultants at Adobe. Andrew, Clarke, I think I'm getting you on stage first to go through some cool new content from Experience Manager, and then Greg, you'll follow up with some Target stuff.
Afternoon, guys. Nearly there. 20 more minutes to go, roughly. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of talk to you about some of the concepts that we go out and we talk to our customers about, and one of those is called fluid experiences. And you've heard the word experience a lot over the last couple of days, and for us, you know, that's our mantra. You know, we're trying to help you make your business an experience business, and there are some pillars to making your business an experience business, and one of those we talk about is designing for speed and scale. And innovating so integrating for innovation. So designing for speed and scale really ties into the fluid experience component of kind of our story. And so what is fluid experiences? So they need to decouple your single platform to enable you to deliver your content everywhere to any channel at the right time, to the right person. We've all heard that message over the last few days. We need to be able to deliver that content to mature channels, and you also need to be able to deliver to those channels which you haven't even thought about yet. Go back one, I missed that one. And we're also going to talk about a hybrid CMS. So everyone's heard about headless CMSs or hybrid CMSs. AEM is that and more out of the box. So being able to deliver your experiences, your content, your data, everything you've invested in without a presentation to any channel, whether it be a chatbot, whether it be IoT, whether it be voice-enabled devices as well. And so AEM is for us the critical part. It's the way where you manage your digital foundation for managing, storing, your governance, your workflow, your maintenance of your content. We also talk about, this is where you have your collaboration, and marketing velocity is another word for designing for speed and scale, getting your content out quickly to the right channel, to the right time, to the right person. With more touch points emerging in the market, obviously the more type of content or the amount of content that you need to produce is kind of ever increasing. And especially if you're going to tackle some personalization and A/B testing as well. And a connected experience. So obviously we want to be able to understand who is touching what channel, on what device, what type of content they're consuming, and having that connected experience. And all of that gives you the ability to deliver what we call an experience. So if you think of it, think of the Adobe Experience Manager landscape. We start from the left, and we're bringing in content. That content could be editorial, brand content. It could be content that's generated from your agencies who are integrating with AEM. It could also be user-generated content, so social media. You're seeing a lot of businesses and companies actually using social media content quite well on their websites. We also want to store that content in a single source of truth. That has a lot of benefits around governance, workflow, findability, usability, reusability. And that for us then enables you to deliver that content out through an omni-channel experience. And this is where kind of fluid experiences kind of fit in. So pushing that content out to multiple channels, irrespective of its presentation. You want to be able to write some content and repurpose that and reuse it across multiple channels rather than having to write it in multiple spots. And on top of that, you've heard Sensei a lot over the last couple of days as well. So we have smart content services, Sensei providing you with tools and functions that help take away the kind of mundane, repeatable tasks. For example, smart tags. When you ingest assets into the DAM, it will automatically go off and tag that for you. So taking away those repeatable tasks. And so, if you read that, optimally deliver experiences across a wide range of touch points and formats. So more and more, you're going to see more touch points, you're going to see more ways of delivering your content, more ways of creating delightful experiences for your customers. And once again, I'm going to just touch on, you can do that now with what you've currently got, but you also need to think about what touch points are going to be happening in the future. All right, so in AEM, the foundations for hybrid delivery is we talk about the three things. Is firstly, we start with content fragments. So think about content fragments as an asset to your business. It's content that you define and create and store in a structure within your digital asset management. So a DAM doesn't necessarily have to be something where you store imagery. It can also be somewhere where you store content. A content fragment is content separated or decoupled from presentation, and it has associated media to it. So this is where your content could be consumed from an app and represented however it needs to be represented in that app. It could be consumed by an IoT device. An experience fragment is where we take those components or those content fragments and we present it in a number of different variations. So you could have a promotion that you want to push out to Facebook, another promotion that you're pushing out to a mobile app, that same promotion that you want to push out to English people, another one that has a language variation on that. So creating variations of that experience fragment enables you to get that out to market across multiple channels. And content services, what we call is a lightweight API, enabling you to have that consumption of content outside of AEM. So any applications or any third-party people that want to grab your content and do stuff with it, you can do that in AEM. Content fragments, yeah, we just talked about that. So editorial content, so once again, treat it as an asset. It runs through the whole governance, workflow, procedures that you have in place in AEM. There's the ability to create variations on that content. We have Sensei doing some auto-summarization for you. So if you needed to have a full-blown kind of story and you wanted to have an auto-summarized version of that for Twitter, for example, you can do that by creating a variation of that content fragment and allowing Sensei to actually go out and work out where it should be doing the summarization. So taking away those repeatable and kind of mundane tasks. Experience fragments, here we see a number of different variations of that one fragment. So you think of it as a building block for building out those different variations. So if I change the title of that promotion in the main kind of master version of that, it's going to get reflected out through all the different variations for you. So once again, write once, use across multiple different channels. And this is kind of helping me lead on into the next section, which Greg's going to talk on. If you want to then be able to test and retest and learn and understand how your consumers are interacting or behaving with your content, you can then take that experience fragment and publish it directly out into Adobe Target. So it enables you to decouple your content marketing team from your testing team. So you could have your testing team literally just working in Target and playing with the content experience fragments that the marketing team has created and exposed for you. Content services, once again, this is the ability to generate structured content directly out of AEM, out of the box, to have it consumed in whatever format that you need to consume it in. And I'll just lastly touch on another part of that content services is single page applications, and that's one of the features that we've released recently with AEM 6.4. is the ability to actually edit and manage the content in a WYSIWYG interface for single page applications, which is something that a lot of marketers have challenged with. Having IT developing these single page applications and not being able to actually manage and change the content. So swinging back into experience fragments and Target, I'm going to push that now over to Greg, who's going to talk a lot more about Target.
All right, we're on the last stretch, guys. This is it. You've had to wait all day to see me. That's either a good or a bad thing. But so I'm going to continue on just to talk a bit about Adobe Target and particularly around how Adobe Sensei, if you haven't heard of Sensei, I'd say we'll have a discussion afterwards, about how Sensei can help automating a lot of the services that are in Target today. So can I get a show of hands? Who uses Adobe Target in their business? Okay, that's almost everyone. That's actually show of hands who loves using Adobe Target. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. I actually love. So Adobe uses it obviously as well on our own website. But Sensei is there within Adobe Target to not take control of what you're doing, but to help automate and power the experiences that you're running for your customers. And for anyone who doesn't understand what Adobe Target's about, very, very simply, it's there to personalize or to test the default experiences which you've published for your websites, your mobile apps, essentially for any type of digital channel. So A/B testing, one-on-one experiences, things like that. And within Adobe Target, there are actually 4 different types of sort of experiences which you can drive, which are powered by Adobe Sensei. I'm not going to go through all 4 today because we don't have a lot of time, and we're sort of wrapping up this last session. I'm going to pick a couple of these, take you through them in detail, and then the rest is sort of easy to understand by inference. But let's just start simple firstly. Let's start with automating A/B testing. So I guess everyone who put their hands up before does A/B test, right? So A/B testing being just, I've got 3 or 4, 2, 3, 4, however many different versions of content which I want to test. So every visitor who comes to the site will be served a random version of that content. And then if they like it, they click through. We measure the success of each of those different bits of content, and then we can understand which one worked. So one of the features of Adobe Target, which is being powered by Sensei, is what we call auto-allocation of these A/B tests. So in a standard manual A/B test, which I'm sure a lot of you are doing right now, you have to pick the proportions of the different versions of the content that you've got. You've got to decide, I want 20% to go to this version, 40% to this version, 40% to this version, and so on. Sensei can kick in with auto allocation mode here to say, well, let me do that for you, because during the course of a test, I might start finding a clear winner, and wouldn't that be great if you could start to optimize automatically towards that winner? Keeping in mind, we'll still keep testing the other versions. We don't want a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? We don't, just because version C happens to be winning now, doesn't mean it will be the final winner. So auto allocation is there to help really speed up this process for you to understand how your testing's working. So it will, what we've seen for people who are using this is that we're getting a higher than average list in an A/B test, because we can actually optimize the results of the test while it's in flight. We can find the winner faster, but we are still preserving that sort of accuracy in terms of the statistical confidence that you'll get, knowing that if you were to run that test again, you should get similar results. So I've got some mathematics for you, not a lot, I will explain it through you. So a manual test, right? Let's say I've got versions A, B, and C. Version A is my default experience, so that's the one that everyone would see anyway, and we're going to test B and C against each other and see which one's better. So you can see here with the visitors that we've just set this up to be 33% more or less across each one, just an even test. Version A, which is our default, is giving us on average for each visitor coming through a revenue of $6. Now version B, when we tested it, we've actually seen a bit of a drop. We're only getting $5.50 for each of them, but version C is doing better than both. We're actually getting $7 per visitor. So if we imagine that if we'd only run A, we've already got 600,000. We got an additional 100,000 because version C was more compelling, but people didn't like version B as much, so we actually lost a bit of money, right? In a standard A/B test, you'd need to run this for the full 2 weeks. I mean, you've made 50,000, that's fantastic. Now, for those who are more focused not around revenue, this could have been engagement metrics like page views or downloads of a white paper, or it could have been application starts or application completes for Fin services and so on. But, I mean, it's good, but what's happened is C was obviously doing a lot better. So Sensei can kick in auto allocation mode to say, well, while we're running the test, we'll keep testing A and B. We'll make sure that we're giving a statistical chance for all of these to win. But we can see C is actually activating better, or converting better, so we'll keep funneling more traffic into that. So that means your $7 per revenue per visitor, we've actually pushed a lot more visitors through. We've only put 30,000 through the inferior experiences, and we're pushing a lot more through. So our 50,000 suddenly become 225,000. Your numbers may vary. But hooray to this, right? So that's how auto allocation's working. Now, if you do A/B testing today, so does this look familiar to anyone? Anyone who uses it? Yeah, I'm seeing lots of nods. So you typically go through, say, who your visitors are going to be, what proportion they're going to get, the manual mode, and then here's your experiences, and there's your manual. I've got to set 33% to each one, or however you're going to do that. The next button down in that central part, auto allocate, simply takes those numbers away. So that means we will just do this for you. Sensei is going to keep running this model and do it for you. It's taking bias out of the equation as well, because you might have said, well, default content's really good, it's been running for a while, we'll put more people through it. Let Sensei do this for you, right? It's not taking control, but it's giving you access through reporting as this runs into which is winning, and it's just basically giving you that uplift additionally over just a standard A/B test. So that's A/B testing. Now, of course, anyone who's on just Target Standard, this is available today. The next feature I'm going to talk about is a Target Premium capability, which is really around auto personalization. So imagine now you've got, say, a particular significant part of your homepage, and often that can be the banner on a significant part of any website or any mobile app. This is often your homepage and often that hero banner. Now, carousels are thankfully becoming a thing of the past. You know, you sit there, you look at the web page, oh, there's some interesting content, gone. And then the next one, okay, what are you doing here? So, sorry, that's my personal opinion, right? But what would be better if there's often that's just a real estate game, right? Everyone wants a bit of a homepage, so you've just got to keep shunting stuff left and forward. What if every visitor, based on other visitors in the past who look like them, could see the content that they wanted on the homepage, and just a single call to action makes it a lot easier, and have all the different options and more sub context at the bottom. But the carousel thing is quite confusing. No one ever sees the fifth one or the sixth one. I've seen 8 before. So automated personalization is there for you to stack these up vertically, and then It will start randomly over time, so it will just say, all right, well, I've got to start somewhere, so I'm just going to start throwing out experiences. Then it will see, based on how much data we're getting about each individual, so it could just be behavioral data or a lot of the stuff that Scott put up on the screen in his presentation. But if you can also be ingesting some non-identifiable CRM data, such as genders, age ranges, things like that, that can help as well. And then it starts to build a model. This is Sensei, again, building up a model, and it will start to optimize which piece of content is converting better based on the type of visitor, based on all the visitors in the past. So it's a fairly simple concept. So here's Adobe's homepage. We actually run auto-personalization pretty much on every view of our homepage. I think in flight at any given time is something like 90, 95 different versions of our homepage based on what you're going to get. Now, auto-personalization lets you, again, it lets you take that bias out of the equation. So let's look at the bottom two here. So notice the tagline here is for students and teachers. So this is for our education vertical, for Creative Cloud in particular, people looking at Photoshop and InDesign and the whole Creative Cloud suite. So we just had some jumbled images, and if I put my bias into this, I'd say, I really don't want to show this picture because it's kind of like, well, it's a classroom, right? It's where all the kids have to show up. This is very fun. This is skateboards with interesting graphics on them. So let's show this one. Instead, what we did is we put automated personalization to the test. We discovered that in certain countries, such as Japan, they really wanted this one because they've got a much more sort of orderly type of culture. They sort of file in the classroom, they're well behaved. You don't see that here. Whereas other countries, particularly Western countries, US, Australia, and New Zealand, and so on, really found this more compelling. Overall, with this Creative Cloud for Students, when we were running this test, we actually saw a $65 million increase in what we were doing, which is not peanuts, right? It was actually, and all it took was to run an automated personalization test. So we were quite happy with that as well. We're at the end of it. So I've covered with you the first one and the third one. There's obviously a lot more in Adobe Target. At any point, if you're wanting to learn more, you've got access to your customer success managers, you've got access to us. The other two, which I didn't touch on, recommendations, that Amazon style, people who saw this also saw that type of thing, is in the platform for premium. And also auto-targeting, which is really around, similar to the auto-personalization I just showed you, but more in an A/B/C testing style of workflow. Some subtleties in when you'd use each one. No time to go into this type of detail at all, but thank you. I think we're done.